It's a heart. How is that possible?
Guys, give them both a big round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. That's my show. My name is Devontae. Have a great night. Thank you.
I've been an entrepreneur since the day I was born.
Without further ado, here he is, the People's Shark, Daymond John.
Daymond John, the founder and CEO of Forest Bias FUBU and a panelist on Shark Tank and the author of 3 best-selling books.
An entrepreneur is somebody who thinks outside the box, and when everybody else says no, they say yes.
In 1992, Daymond John was 23 years old with only 40 bucks to his name when he started FUBU, now one of the most iconic fashion brands in history.
When I started FUBU, I had to physically get up in people's face and try to sell them a shirt.
Everybody thinks you need money to make money, but you don't.
We knew we make it if we ever get on our senor.
Came from the hood. I can't design. I'm dyslexic. Got left back in 7th grade. All that didn't stop me.
America's not about what can be done for us. It's about what can be done by us.
When you start hearing the president talk about FUBU, Mom, I made it. I started going on shows, and Mark Burnett saw me and said, this guy knows how to break down a pitch. I want him on the show.
Every week, over 6 million people tune in to see Daymond John and his fellow sharks fight it out on Shark Tank.
4 fluffy pancakes, under 250 calories.
I'll do 120,000 for 50%.
I'll go 42. We can do it right now.
Say yes, don't hesitate.
I'll do 42.
Nice play, Daymond.
Thank you very much.
It's about educating people. I'm just doing it because I was this close to losing everything myself.
Daymond, you have a deal.
Smart man.
There you go.
He's so encouraging, and he sees that I could do this.
So the question is going to be, when is it time for Chloe to start her line? The biggest investment is to invest in people.
We have an idea. We know you are the man to come to.
For me, I've always dreamed big. And so I called up my business partner, Daymond John from Shark Tank.
I love him so much.
I love him.
It's all about bringing other people up the ladder, the same way that I was brought up the ladder.
I will guarantee to mentor you, but I will not give you the money at this time.
We're taught everything else as kids, but we're not taught how to use that tool called money.
You have to concentrate on this and be the king of this.
Daymond John from Shark Tank is here with us.
Daymond John, branding powerhouse and realist.
He's my favorite shark, the author of a brand new book called Rise and Grind.
You gotta grind. That's right.
Anything worth doing is worth overdoing.
Rise and grind, outperform, outwork, and out-hustle your way to a more successful and rewarding life.
Don't do things just for money. You have to start today and do what you love.
You're going to fail, but you're going to learn from that, and you're going to grow.
We've got a shark here named Daymond John.
You are also a presidential ambassador for global entrepreneurship.
We're here tonight to save the world and teach financial intelligence. The recipient of the Daymond John Scholarship for Excellence is... I look for desire, drive, honor, and the ability to solve problems.
First of all, thanks for what you're doing.
My quest right now is to change people's lives, have fun at the same time, and challenge people.
You've just given back to the community in so many great ways. Real visionary.
Please welcome Daymond John!
The king of branding. He is the leader, the guy that started it all, a pioneer. I love it. The American dream stole up. That's what it's about.
It's about leaving with a legacy.
Thank you. Test. Got it? All right, you've seen him on TV. Now you'll see him on Zoom. I'm just kidding. Mr. Daymond John. There's no step. Do you have a step? Oh, there's stairs there? Oh, no, I got it. Boom.
Okay.
Boom, boom, boom.
All right. Thank you. How you doing? Oh, appreciate it. All right. What's happening, man?
I don't know. We're just chilling. We're just relaxing.
How many cups of coffee do you drink a day?
That's wine right there.
Yeah? Okay.
What you want?
Hopefully that'll calm you down, yeah.
Today we got like 4. So we did a little fire for you.
Hold on, let me adjust this. I feel like my back is a little bit to the crowd over there. Okay.
We got a little fire. How do you like the fire?
Feel warm and cozy?
All right, so we prepared some questions. Hope you don't mind having my phone out. I don't have a brain right now.
Please do.
All right. So we know you started with humble beginnings. Tell us a little bit about that, and rejection. When you start with humble beginnings, a lot of rejection, a lot of failure along the way. Try to grow your business. How does that all come together? Humble beginnings, the rejection, the failure, and then the growth.
Well, that's obviously a pretty long story. I've
Yes.
53 years, so I'm going to just try to do it in 2 minutes.
That's fine.
I was born in Brooklyn, moved to Queens. Father was from Trinidad, mother African American, beautiful family, only child. Life happened. Father leaves at 10 years old. Never see or speak or hear from him again. Watched my mother work 3 jobs, put the same amount of food on the table. She worked 1. Didn't want to see her work that hard. Started working at 10 years old. Against her will, handing out flyers. This new music was coming out of the Bronx called hip hop that I loved. I want to be part of it.
Bunch of Hasidic guys here. What is hip hop?
Oh, they know what hip hop is. Trust me. I really love this music, but I found that people who were selling us the clothes, or we were buying the clothes from, did not like or respected us. They would take our money and say, we don't like you. Whether because of our color, whether because we're hip-hop kids, whether because we're inner city kids or rappers. Maybe I bought a pair of 36 pants and they said, I made those to be a pair of 32. How dare you wear them so baggy? Well, maybe I'm a break dancer, or maybe this is all the money I have, and maybe this is an investment that I will hopefully grow into in 4 or 5 years. And I came up with the name FUBU, Forced Bias. Now, a lot of people don't know that FUBU wasn't for African Americans. A lot of people don't know that my stepfather came into my life that I fell in love with, happens to be of the Jewish faith, when I was 16 years old, named Steve Sirota. And he always told me, be pro-black but never anti-anything else. And he always told me that, and he taught me that love doesn't come in a color or a gender. So I created a brand called FUBU. It was about a culture. And I didn't have any money, so how was I going to get this out? So Good Friday, 1989, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I stood on the corner of 165th Street in Queens and Jamaica Avenue, and I made some hats the night before that, and I sold $800 worth of hats in 1 hour. And I remember saying to myself, I'm never going to work for anybody else again the rest of my life, because I made these with my own hands. It was my ability to show value to the customer. Whatever the value was, the hat matched their sneakers, the hat kept the head warm, the hat made them look fashionable, and from that day on, I will never work for anybody else for the rest of my life. Yeah. Thank you. Reality set in, and I went to work at Red Lobster for 5 years.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I worked at Starbucks, so it's okay.
I had good intentions. I would open FUBU and close FUBU 3 times from 89 to 92, running out of money. Brought 4 friends into the business in 92. Mortgaged my mother's house, slept in sleeping bags next to sewing machines, manufactured clothes. And then I ended up getting a deal with Samsung's textile division from my current partner, Bruce and Norman Weisfeld. And what we felt is that the culture of us understanding certain 2 different worlds created innovation. And then by 1998, I was globally recognized.
Yeah. I know at some point I saw something about a New York Times ad that you guys took. And I also wanted to ask you that, and before I forget, bring in investors when you need to scale. So I know it's 2 different questions.
So what happened was what I told you about the house, right? And I'm glad we can go into further, and you can feel free to ask me any question. When I mortgaged the house, I had $100,000 mortgage that I took money in, and I ran out of that in 3 months. I was about to lose my mother's house because I was paying for raw goods 90 days ahead of time. I was paying for a staff, shipping, and my accounts receivables, they weren't paying me for 30, 60, 90 days.
When does Amazon pay out? It's a common problem.
It is, of course. Cash flow is always the biggest problem. So I took an ad in the New York Times that said, $1 million in orders need financing. 33 people called that ad. 30 of them were named Pookie, Laquita, Sal the Sausage. Some guy, 25% interest, living there out of collateral. One guy I think was named Kevin O'Leary with royalties in perpetuity. I'm talking nasty people here. But one of them was Samsung's textile division. And that's how I ended up doing the deal. And so Samsung's textile division, now remember that story, went from 89 to 1997 when I took out that ad. The deal that I struck with Samsung's textile division, they would manufacture and distribute my clothes, but I would have to sell $5 million worth of clothes in 3 years to keep the deal. But because I put all that work in, and I knew what I had, and I knew my customer really well, I sold $30 million worth of clothes in 3 months. Yeah. And I hope you're there. I know a lot of people, you know, are on that cusp.
But there's that one thing, right? You went ahead and you put everything you had on that ad, and then what do you know?
Yeah, because of scalability, right? You know, entrepreneurship is a team sport. You need to work with people. Everybody's your customer. Your customer is your customer. Your boss is your customer. Your employee is your customer. And the only way that I can globally scale was to be able to have strategic partners. And that's how we scale, and it became the biggest urban brand because a lot of people want to run their own business. But no, I didn't know how to sell to Australia or to sell to Japan. That was a whole different buyer. That was a whole different mindset on buying. So I licensed those territories, and then I didn't know how to make ladies, boots, bags, boys, fragrance, da-da-da. I didn't know how to do all that. And I didn't want to learn every one of those areas. If you try to learn every one of those areas, do you realize how difficult it is? I made men's apparel. That's what I made, and I did the best in men's apparel. The ladies' market is a whole different type of market. I could slap a big FUBU name on it, but I did the deal with Joe and Ralph Nakesh for ladies, right? That's what I do. If I did boys, I did it with Longstreet or Kids Headquarters or whoever it was because I knew they knew the business. So whatever it is, that's how you get scalability. I'd rather make half of what I would potentially make, but I have a 90% chance of making money instead of a 90% chance of losing money.
Now, these days you're pretty good. You don't need to take out ads in the New York Times. And now, I'm sure one of the things that has become a very, very big issue in the Amazon e-commerce world is employees and getting the right employees. And you know, when you're sitting in a dusty warehouse and you're cranking stuff out and you got to attract employees and you don't know what, you know you got a vision, you know you want to build. Everyone here is scaling large businesses and you got to relay that vision to their employees or potential employees. How do you sell them? I mean, now I'm sure now you got your employees, but how do you get new ones when you're just starting out to believe in your vision?
They're still a customer, right? And what is attractive to them? You can't expect every employee to run a business like you run it. An employee is coming to work for whatever reason. Maybe they need the money to go to school. Maybe they have a sick family member at home. Maybe they just need to pay their rent. But if you can make certain employees partners in some level of the business, not a full-time partner, but incentivize them for whatever reason. You know, 85% of my staff has started off as whether third-party vendors or interns. Right? Because the interns, when they come from college, they're getting, you know, credit to come from college. They're showing up before people. They're leaving after people. When I have a third-party vendor who is somebody who takes this amount of money to work 3 months or something, I said, if you take this amount and then we collectively see if something works, I'm going to put a lot of skin in the game. It's going to cost me a lot of time to disrupt this machine. And that's how I found good people. My turnover is less than 4%. And it's because, thank you. I try to treat them good. I treat them great. And I have also transparency. Remember, employees often don't know what the end goal is. There's a lot of confusion. But my transparency, and don't get me wrong, sometimes I have to tell them if we don't make these numbers and I've been educating you or doing everything else, I'm going to have to let you go. I'm very clear with them. You know, it's usually the ones that you want to fire that never leave. It's really the good ones always have another place to go, right? Somebody's gonna, especially now, right? What happened, I don't know what happened the last 2 years, but it's like Thanos just took away half of the workforce. It's incredibly hard to find anybody. So, you know, you have to reward those who are really good talent because they're either gonna become your competition or somebody's gonna steal them. That's really what's gonna happen.
And some of your employees are there with you for a long time, and it's almost like a marriage. And yeah. I want to ask you this, because this is something that comes up where in marriage sometimes things happen, and you're comfortable with things happening. You're comfortable with having a bad night at home, but if you say the wrong word to your partner, oh my God. So how do you keep that kind of, you know, same kind of marriage where partner is comfortable and confident. I know you got some good partners. I know we got a mutual friend. How do you keep them comfortable that you're committed to this relationship and you can go far?
That's a great question. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that. That is allowing people to make mistakes, but manage the mistakes they make and the clarity and transparency in the conversation. I can't guarantee that it's going to end up right. You know, I have done, sometimes like many of us, we've done everything we could for a person, and they may have been their worst enemy. Or maybe I didn't have as much respect as I may have thought I had for the person, or maybe I was in someplace else. It's not going to be perfect. But I find that when I do have, most of my employees that have left have come back. They went someplace else and they found out maybe it wasn't as great as they thought. But having that transparency, but as well allowing people to make mistakes, but you have to learn from the mistakes. You know, you look at these large corporations, the biggest problem with them is that people have to hit their numbers, and when they try to think entrepreneurially, they get penalized for it. Now, you know, these people have to report to shareholders, they have to hit the numbers, the stock is doing this and that, and I get that. But they have a big challenge with turnovers and various other things. So I just believe in transparency, making sure goals are all in place, making sure that there's an open door policy so people could tell you what's keeping them up at night, and upper management who may work for you is not taking the credit for somebody else when you have a superstar right here. I just believe in these numbers, you know?
So it's a lot of Amazon sellers, a lot of e-commerce sellers.
Huh?
A lot of e-commerce and Amazon sellers. They sell pretty boring products. They find something good that works and they scale. So you said you started out selling hats and T-shirts, and which have been around forever. So how do you make your product stand out from a branding perspective, so that your product goes from boring to booming? I didn't write that. That just came to me. I'm pretty good with words.
Well, the most successful products in the world are boring products. I mean, Coca-Cola is a sugary brown drink, right? The most successful products in Shark Tank, the top two, I have the first one.
Which one's that? What's that?
Just in case you see those other underachievers I call fellow sharks. It's called Bombas Socks.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing sexy about socks. Gonna do $500 million this year.
Oh.
Right? But let me show you the difference. So I went on Shark Tank because I wanted to pitch other companies than clothing companies. It was 2007. Retail was dying. Nobody was buying more shirts when they couldn't pay their mortgage. I had 10 clothing brands, and 8 of them were dead. I was only getting pitched clothing companies, and I wanted to go to Macy's. Instead of taking up the menswear department, I wanted to take up makeup, fragrance, plateware, whatever the case is. So I wanted to diversify my portfolio and gather more real estate, like many of you are doing right now. You're maximizing the purchase, or you're maximizing the eyeball, you're maximizing the effort. The last thing I ever wanted was another clothing brand. Bombas comes on and says to me, every time we sell a pair of socks, we give a pair away to the homeless. We're talking directly to our customer. We're no longer dealing with retail. I know you love philanthropy, and I know you don't want to deal with retail. And now the reason why Bombas socks sell so well, if everybody in this room had on Bombas socks, nobody could tell. Why do they sell so well? Because today's consumer doesn't want to know what you're doing for them. They want to know what you're doing for somebody else. So like my daughter, who works at a pizza parlor, I'll say I gave at the end of the year. She'd be like, oh, that's nice. I gave 20 times this year. You work at a pizza parlor. How do you do that? Because every time I bought this, I helped clean up the ocean. Every time I bought this, I stopped human trafficking. Every time I bought this, a homeless person in need got a pair of socks. And every time I bought this, I saved a furry friend of ours. And you make somebody the smartest person on Zoom, at the water cooler, at the dinner table. And that's what happens. People like to tell a story about your brand or your product. And the second most successful selling product in Shark Tank history, and I can't stand this product, is a stupid-looking little sponge that Lori beat me out on the deal, called the Scrub Daddy. $200 million this year in sales.
And that man is the hardest working man I've ever met.
He is.
He's
right up there with you and Maury. Yes.
We did an event a couple years ago.
Alan.
Who's Alan?
Alan from Scrub Daddy.
His name is Alan?
Yeah.
Alan what?
Yeah. What's his name?
I don't
Trust me, I know. He calls me every week. My name is Alan.
We did an event. He came. We got a whole bunch of Shark Tank people together. Actually,
yeah.
We did a LinkedIn meetup, and we had a whole bunch of them. We had the nose thingy, and the Scrub Daddy, and everybody. And he came with samples, and he's just pitching his samples.
Yeah.
Ask my wife. We have 2 boxes in our garage. We moved. We just left it there, I think, for the new
Leave
people.
them there. Yeah. But going back to the audience here, those are very simple products, but those are simple products that people use daily and they go to. We all have our go-to stuff. So there's a way to position something. I like to say, can you put it in 2 to 5 words? Apple think different, Nike just do it. Fubu Forest bias, White Castle what you crave. TNT, we know drama. When you give people the wording and that jingle to go out and do it, they do it. You know, and that's branding yourself. So first of all, brand the product, but also brand yourself. A lot of people don't even brand themselves. With social media and the way that LinkedIn and all these things work today, if you don't know your own 2 to 5 words that you are, when you walk into a room, you leave it up to everybody else to interpret. And now, it's not like when we all grew up, we shook people's hands and we called references. We're all looking at you through this. So before I even ever call you back, I'm looking at your 2 to 5 words here. I'm studying you, everybody around you, what you're posting, when you're posting it, you know, who your friends are, who they're posting about. That's why I always tell my mother, stop talking about politics and religion. Unless you're in that business, don't talk about it. It's not, leave that at home.
Ooh, I have a follow-up. I have 2 follow-ups. One on the politics stuff. But
I'm not going to talk about that, but.
No worries. No worries. You said something important there. You said that you got to give people those couple words. Do you feel that people know what they want? And this is a very theoretical question. We're not like judging anyone. We're asking, do people know what they want? Or do you have to give them what you think they want?
So it depends from what we're talking about. If we're talking about from a personal side, when I talk about motivation, you have to know what you want, you have to set goals, and you have to have education to reinforce those goals. But if you lie to yourself about what you want, if you're doing something for different reasons, then it's wrong. But as for your customer, you have to be able to describe to your customer. Many of them know what they want, but generally, people are looking, it's a discovery process. They're looking for something new, right? They're looking for you to tell them, why is this new? Because you have to think about it. No matter what anybody here makes, there's nothing absolutely new in this world again. And that's a good thing, though. Airbnb is still a timeshare. Uber is still a limousine service. It just has geo-tracking on it. Facebook, it's a nasty chain letter. The Snuggie's a blanket. It just has 2 damn holes in it. You know, I remember I was talking to a kid in a college, very high-level college. And one young man jumped up and said, Mr. John, our generation has something your old generation has never had before. I said, okay, well, what is it? He said, emojis. We call those hieroglyphics a million years ago, you moron. Now sit down. There's nothing new, but how do you position it? How do you position new socks? How do you position a sponge? How do you position a Ring doorbell? How do you position anything new, whatever you have?
And well, we're going to go back to the politics thing, but it's not politics. It's just a side. It's about dealing with negative attention. But this show, by the way, this show was an entirely new format. Nothing like this was ever done in the Amazon space. We had to drag every single person into this room. We had to drag them here because they didn't envision it. So that's the question. You got to build that vision and then try to show them this is what you need because it serves you better or because you need it. So I was just saying, like we had to drag every person here. But then I said you're coming and everyone showed up.
Well, you should have had to drag your person because it was something new again, right? And then you want. What you have here is there's a bell curve in any business, in any event, anything. You have the first leaders. They're the forefront. That 10% influences 90% of the market, right? And that's obviously who will be, the first handlers of something. Then it goes up to general population. And then this 10%, this end 10%, I mean, these people, they don't trust or they don't buy anything. But it's usually when something new, the bell curve is this first 10% are the most influential people in the market.
So sometimes you do get into politics for the wrong reasons, like you warned your mother about, and it brings you mostly negative results because you step in it.
Yeah.
And we had a little drama here last week, and it brought us some negative attention.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is really, when you get that negative attention, whether you deserved it or you didn't. In our case, we didn't. We did all the right moves.
Yeah.
And how do you recover from that? I mean, you're a public figure. I'm sure you deal with hate every once in a while. How do you address? Do you just continue on your way, or do you face it head
Negative
on?
attention is two different things. If you get rejection, I look at it as a grenade. That's handed with you, to you with a pin pulled out. You hand it to somebody else. So that's not my problem. But make it somebody else's problem. It all depends on what the negative attention is. As a public person, I get a lot of negative attention. But the negative attention is usually 5% of the market that's taking up 20% of the chatter. And I'm ignoring the other 95% who deserve my attention. So I find ways to counter them. I don't fight against them. I don't argue with them. I state my opinion, my facts. I generally state my facts. And I move on. Negative attention I find in business when I'm talking about circles of people around me who say I can't do it or it'll never be done. I always look at it as more opportunity because those people don't see the same vision. If we all saw the same vision, there would be no opportunity for me. So it all depends on the negative attention you're talking about. Whenever I got rejected by somebody, I could have internalized it and said, is it because I'm African American? Is it because I had no college experience? Matter of fact, I got left back in school. I didn't come from money. Is it because I don't have a famous last name? I mean,
no, you do.
Well, I do have a famous last name, but if I tell Elton John I'm his son, he's not going to believe me for various reasons. But when I got that negative attention, you know what I said to myself? Did I convey my message properly? Did I study the target well enough? Did I explain to the target what was in it for their benefit and not mine? And then if they kept rejecting me, I said, maybe they had a bad day. Maybe they were arguing with their husband or wife. Maybe they don't see the vision. Then I kissed another frog. And I just kept moving on. Think about it. I got to deal with Samsung Textile Division. I didn't go to Reebok and Tommy Hilfiger and all the top ones. I went to number 200 that needed to be number 1. I just kept knocking on doors. The only resource I had when I first started was, I didn't have any money. I knew I could make 50 calls a day. And that's it. I knew for 6 months I was going to make 50 calls a day. The first 2 weeks, everybody hung up the phone on me. After a while, they were like, you ain't going to stop calling me, are you? Or, I thought about you, somebody else, there's something here for you. Or, you know what, something just came to mind. Now I know what you're doing. So that's how I deal with all forms of rejection. And it's not easy. I stay up at night, especially when my ex-wife calls me. I stay up at night half the time, debating it, but I deal with it. And what are they doing back there? Thank you.
That's somebody's ex-wife out there. All right, so this is something we sent this question out a couple weeks ago, and someone asked me that tonight. We were talking about, motivators, and you reach a certain level of success, like you did, and you may not have the same motivators like when you're young and hungry. What keeps a successful person going? Like, why continue working? What is it that motivates you to keep on growing and keep on scaling and keep on building?
So I said it earlier, I touched on it a little bit. You got to know your why. A lot of us are not honest with ourselves about our why. I meet a lot of people that their why is because their parents told them that was what success was. They're doing it for somebody else. And they're not blatantly honest with what they want to accomplish. And once you understand that, then you can set the right goals, and then you do the right homework. So you're saying people want to be more successful. I generally don't want more money. Not because I have an abundance. I sit next to Mark Cuban and Richard Branson. I don't know what to do with $1 billion. I just don't know what to do. I'm not leaving my kids anything. I don't know what to do with $1 billion. You know, people ask me to create funds all the time. Daymond, you can raise $200 million, right? Okay, if I raise $200 million, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna spend more time now acquiring companies and working again? Like, I don't wanna do that. I don't want a staff of 400, 1,000 people. Other people like Robert, he has a staff of 4,000 people, and he's gonna acquire more. Everybody needs to know what they wanna do, because when I had my staff of 400 people, I felt like I was a shrink. I had to listen to people all the time because I never wanted anybody to be held back for the same reasons I was held back. So again, growing and building and setting different goals are something else that other people need to see, and you know, on their own. What is one of my goals? It's a shame that I'm the only African American on television that has nothing to do with politics, sports, or music. It's a shame. And I want more people, whether it's a young man, woman, yellow, brown, whatever they are, to know that you don't need an education at the level that you know, a lot of people say you need. You don't need to come from money. You know, you don't need any of that stuff if you're just willing to bust your butt every day. That's it. So I have a different goal, but people need to know what their why is, and my why just changed over the years. The Daymond John at 25, my why then was to try to make money to make sure that I can give my family protection and medical and education. That was Daymond John at 25. Daymond John's different now at 53.
53?
Yeah, just turned 53 a couple days ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
So you started your business a while ago.
Yeah.
You just gave away your age, so I can say, right?
I got no problem with that.
80s and 90s, right? And that was before internet and .com and all that. What would you do differently today? Because it's a real, like, you can't call 50 people a day. No one picks up the phone today. You're online, you're direct to consumer. What would you do differently?
Oh my God, Fubu today would be a $1 billion business. Because it would be a different form of a business. Today's Forest Bias would be, I would do it kind of exactly what we were talking about earlier. I would have probably one male, one female representative in each high school and each college, and they would get maybe $500 worth of clothes that are worth $1,000 or worth $1,200. And every time they sell out, they would get more levels of digital curriculums, and they would probably have people underneath them, digital curriculums on finance, on various things, on social media marketing. And I would create an Avon type of program where you would have each representative, because I love the Avon model. The Avon model is they're going to do $20 billion this year, and the highest, yeah, if you're, shout out to Avon.
Is Avon yeah, Avon's here.
And the highest, the average amount that an Avon rep sells is $4,000 worth of product. And why? Because they're generally buying it for themselves. So you think all the Avon reps are selling to somebody else. They're buying it for themselves at a discount. They're really the customer. It's a crazy model. Same with the Tupperware parties and the candle parties. That's exactly what Fubu would be today. Or it would be a subscription model.
That's an interesting thing.
I have a buddy who sells a subscription model. It's called 5-4 Denim. You can buy a box of men's apparel for $50. You get it an average of $50 a month. You get $120 worth of men's apparel a month.
How do you, can you look it up for me?
5-4 Denim. Here's the beautiful model about that, though. Unlike me, who sold it to a store, a kid buys it, doesn't buy it, they don't know if their size fits. They already have the analytics of the person's size. So they're selling it to the consumer the same price I would have sold it to Macy's at. I would have sold it at $50. They would have put a Keystone plus whatever, right? And they get almost zero returns. Why? Because they already know the person's size. And now that's not only where they make the money, because they're selling to 200,000 people every month, and they know their inventory. They have little returns because now they know X amount of jeans, X amount of shirts. And the best part about it is Gillette will give them $5 million to put new razors in all the boxes to launch something. That's a subscription model, and nobody takes that $50 a month off of their card. How many people take Netflix off your card? How many people take half those stuff off your card, right? These are interesting models that everybody can learn from. I mean, if I had, and I'm not going to tell them, if I had that sponge company, you would get guaranteed, whatever, 6 sponges a month. Don't tell them.
The guy's got like 42 SKUs at least at this point. So.
Right, so now they got a whole bunch of SKUs to give you, you know, over the year.
So let's move gears into Shark Tank, if you will. See, yeah. You've been there a while. How many years has it been?
I'm going to my 14th year.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you.
I didn't know that. Yeah. I used to watch Dragon's Den before. I was living in Montreal. I watched Dragon's Den.
Yeah, it's excellent.
Yeah. Kevin was he was a little nicer back then, I think. Anyway, what's the most valuable? That's 14 years. Most valuable business lesson you've learned, and this is not really what you've learned. You're learning on the backs of so many other people.
Sure.
What's the number one key takeaway from the 14 years in Shark Tank on brand building?
Well, from Shark Tank, so it's two different things. The number one thing I've learned in business is, well, there's a couple of lessons. The fundamentals. Number one, the number one reason for why businesses go out of business is either they take in too much capital too soon or they have too much inventory. Those are the top reasons. And people say taking capital too soon, but if you only get a $100,000 loan and you take out a lease on a store and do all this type of stuff, then you got a problem instead of opening up a kiosk, right? If you have inventory because you know you're going to sell it all, well, that's what hurt FUBU. When we were doing $300-400 million a year, if we just had 5% of inventory that stayed back, we turned around and we had $50 million worth of unusable inventory in a warehouse. Then now, Burlington and TJ Maxx will say, I'll give you 25 cents on the dollar for that inventory. And the warehouse bills and the insurance and the rotted goods, so inventory is killer. In regards to a business, it's when they're pitching on Shark Tank, we invest in the people. We do not invest in the companies. We want to know that we want to be able to work with these people every single day because these people are going to be partners. And whether this business works out or not, we're going to do another business together. Those are the critical things that I've learned about business. And business is very simple. A lot of people don't really think about it. It's either you reduce costs or you increase sales. That's it. And when you market to people, there's only 4 reasons people buy something. To educate themselves, to entertain themselves, and to pay somebody for something they don't want to do themselves, and to live. Those are the 4 reasons why people really buy, right? And these are all basic fundamentals. When you strip down your business and you get down to the core of it, if you look at all those factors, you have a better way to make a decision on what you're going to do.
So is it always people first, and then how do you know who the right people are? Like, what's
you don't know, but I don't need to invest in anybody because I got a lot of dead billionaires that will work for me, like Steve Jobs, or even alive billionaires like Elon Musk or Harley at Shopify. When I send my money over to the market, I win money or I lose money. That's it. They don't call me to ask how to fix a computer or a car or anything else. When I invest in real estate, with my partners, the building doesn't call me with problems. I mean, the management takes care of that. So if you have to work day by day with somebody, whether it's an employee, whether it's an investment, the only ones I've ever been successful with were the ones that we can communicate. If there are 10 problems, we talk 20 times. But the ones that I couldn't communicate with, if there was 4 problems and we never talked, those problems never got solved. Maybe they didn't like me. Maybe I didn't like them. That's just the way it is.
So is communication is a major red flag or major positive? It's a major positive.
I'll give you an example. We all know the goods have cost 30% more. We know the problems, right? We know there's chokeholds on pipelines. There are shifting quotas and shifting things like that. The most successful companies I've seen, the largest companies I've seen who can afford it, they hire logistic people who've been in the business 20, 30 years, who may have been retired, who have relationships that are 20, 30 years deep. And somebody will say, well, I need $200,000. They said, I'll give you $600,000, but they just saved themselves $20 million. Because they have people who have a Rolodex. They have people who have communication. They have people who have relationships. We're so being penny foolish sometimes on small things, and we're stepping over, big money to save pennies. We're stepping over dollars to save pennies.
Why do they call you the People's Shark?
But I think there's for 2 reasons. So remember when Shark Tank was founded and started, it was 07, 08. Nobody can find money. So this really happened when Richard Branson was on the show. I believe that Shark Tank was the last place for people to come when they risked everything. Families have risked everything. So when somebody comes up on Shark Tank and they got $1 million in the bank and they got their hat in their hand talking about they need another $200,000, there's places to pitch that. I don't think it was for Shark Tank. Because we only have X amount of people we'll see, and when you do that, you're taking away that carpet from that hard-working family that risks everything, risks the kids' college fund, and they put everything at risk, and they have financial stress on their marriage. And I would curse people out when they would do that. And I think that's what it is, because I just think the average person in America doesn't understand having $1 million in the bank talking about, I need another $200,000. So that's the main reason. But then after that, it was just I love investing in people. You know, like I said, I don't need to invest in people. I just go to different areas. So I just think people are the most valuable thing to invest in.
Talking about people's shark, we got Mr. Wonderful. Now, this is a real question. Is he a jerk in real life, or is Cuban the jerk? Thank you.
So all of us are extremely close. You have to understand, we're not acting up there. We see 10 people a day, and the average pitch is 1 hour long. 16 cameras are shooting that pitch. And so they're going through 16 hours of footage to give you 8 minutes, because these are people's lives on the line. There can't be any portrayal of what happened in there inaccurately, because you have people's lives at stake. So you have all that. We can't sit there and act. People on there, Mr. Wonderful is a very nice guy. Just don't ask him what he cares about, what he thinks about money. He really loves money. But we got to think about why we're on there. Mr. Wonderful has an ETF and he has venture funds. He has several $1 billion under management. Who in this room is going to give him money if every time somebody got some crocodile tears, he's like, oh, don't worry about it, here you go? I'm not going to give him my money, right? So that's his position. Mine is, I'm the people shark. Barbara, I don't know, just doesn't take her medicine. I'm not sure what she does. I really have no idea why she's even on the show. And so everybody has a different, view.
Should we do some comedy now?
What happened?
Do some comedy now. So, when did your last book come out? Power Shift.
My last book came out March 2020.
Do you want to write some more, or?
I only write books once that people have asked me enough questions about something I can't say, hey, Tim Ferriss wrote a good book on that, or Tony Robbins on one of my books, and I write enough things that people don't feel they have an answer to. So the reason why I wrote Power Shift is, after I referred people to a lot of books, they were like, well, I just don't have the power to do that. I'm like, who's going to give you power in your life? Why is somebody going to issue you power? That's not up to somebody else, and that's why I wrote it.
So you feel like anyone can obtain that level of influence that you have and the power that you have?
100%. There's so many more people that are not on camera that are way more successful than me in life, and whatever you think success may be. Success is not necessarily money. We know all that. There are so many people I meet that I respect and I value.
Love it. Well, thank you. We're going to jump into a couple of questions. We have
sure, absolutely.
A few minutes. Thank you, Mr. Daymond John. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're funnier than I thought you'd be. I'm teasing you. First of all, what are my chances of ever getting onto Shark Tank as a judge, as a shark?
I hope you can.
All right.
You know what? We don't know why they pick other judges or the people. We can't know.
How did that work? How did you get on when they put the cast together? What was that decision? And then we'll take all these questions.
They called me. I was doing shows like Donnie Deutsch and various other things. I had a book out. And they called me and said, you want to be on the show? I said, okay. And then they were like, well, you're going to spend all your own money. And I was like, click. So I was like, what's wrong with these people in Hollywood? And then they explained it to me again. contract comes over. They say you can only do one show, and it's hours. I said, well, I have 3 girls that I'm managing, and I'm going to do their show it's a cable show, new show. I'm going to do it 3 separate shows. I'm going to be on there 3 minutes apiece, 9 minutes total. They said, you can't do any other show but ours. I said, I have to pass. I get a call from a book agent, not even my agent, said, I heard you gave up a Mark Burnett show on ABC for 3 girls named the Kardashians that nobody will ever hear of. And I was like, yeah, I'm a man of my word. He said, okay, you're an idiot. Khloe Kardashian found out I was going to give up the show because I was managing the girls, and she fired me. She said, I'll never get in your way. So that's what happened.
Well, now we're here. So we're going to take a couple of questions if anyone wants to come up. There we go. I know this guy.
Pleasure to meet you. I don't think it's working. Is it working now? Do you switch it on?
Is it on? Perfect. So my question is like this. We speak about determination, keep on going. You know, you've had your times with FUBU. How do you differentiate between determination, keeping on going, and realizing it's a dead horse and it's time to get off?
That's a very personal decision everybody has to make, but you have to really be very honest with yourself. There's so many people that I said instead of their why, they do things for ego. But again, the money problem is you can't necessarily cure problems with money, right? And a lot of people say, well, if I had more money, I could put more money at this. But what's the money going to do? You know, people come on the Shark Tank and they go, you know, I sold X amount, but if I have 200,000, I could do more advertising because then I could sell more. But obviously the advertising you were doing was not converting. Money often highlights your weaknesses. If you have bad inventory, if you have bad advertising, if you have a bad product, it's no good. So a lot of people are just not honest with themselves, and maybe they don't want to close shop because everybody's going to see they're bankrupt or they close that shop and it's embarrassing to them. But just get over it, and unfortunately the ego gets in too many people's way.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Hi. Are you next? After?
Yeah, come
okay.
up.
No, you're first, right? You're holding it. Okay.
I had a question.
Somebody was passing it around. I'm not sure.
That's all right. I'll just.
So you meet.
Oh, stay there. Stay there.
An incredible amount of talented people coming in.
I what?
You meet a lot of people
Yeah.
in your life and on the show with talent and skills, like I would imagine is in this room, right?
Yeah.
Is there something that you see consistent amongst the people that you choose to invest in that you're like, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to be a part of.
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's two. I'm gonna give you 2 answers. One is the people that I want to work with. We both have the same morals. We both believe in the same things. I think there's a humbleness and an honesty, and I think we feel that we're gonna learn together. But the people that I see that generally are successful, they fail fast. They constantly educate themselves, and they constantly try to meet more people and broaden their thought process. You know, those are the people, and I can't say, listen, there are a lot of successful people that I may not morally understand or need to understand. That's their business, not my problem. But that's generally the same.
You catch that in that short period of time that you
I
meet
what?
them? You catch that in that short period of time that you meet them where you have to make that judgment call?
No, no, because remember, the pitch is an hour long.
Yeah.
We have 3 to 9 months to close the deals, and we close about 80% of the deals. Often, you know, we don't close a deal because we don't like the people, or we find out other things that we didn't find out on the show. You know, if I talk to somebody and they talk about their business and I go, you didn't tell me you owe and this really happened. I was like, you didn't tell me you owe the IRS $750,000. They go, well, you didn't ask. How was I supposed to ask that? So immediately once we do a handshake on the deal, we send them over a sheet that has 40 questions on it that they have to answer about their business, about their history, about their past, about who owns the IP, you know, all that type of stuff. You're welcome.
I thought I'm going to see you in Shark Tank, but I finally see you here. Good to. So I'm not very comfortable in asking questions in public, but I'm taking my courage to go do that right now. So I 100%, thanks, I appreciate it. I 100% believe in it's 80% your mindset and 20% is execution, right? When you're in upside in your mindset, you always have a momentum is keep going, and you keep going and building whatever you have to do. But when you're in the downside, that's where the problem sits actually. So when you're being, what is the momentum that you feel like you're down, and then how do you recover from that? That's my question.
Yeah, these are good questions. I don't think I've been asked a lot of these questions before, and that's not common. So you're saying that when you're in the upside, you could just keep going, it's all good, but when you're in the downside?
When you're in the downside, you're like down, you're low in your energy, you're not, sometimes you go wander around.
Yeah, when I'm at that point in my life, I do something called goal setting, which really keeps me where I should be. I can obviously share with everybody my method, but when I'm downside, sometimes I pause for a second and I reset, and I have to find clarity. And clarity is not necessarily always easy. You know, I went through probably about a dozen since I was, starting business, of those downsides where I go, food was dying. What do I do? Do I reinvest in more stuff? Do I reinvest in clothing, or do I do something else? My first book failed. Shark Tank was going to be canceled its first 3 years. My first marriage failed. Am I a good father? Am I a good husband? And a lot of times, 4 years ago, I found out I had cancer, and I had to reset and say to myself, what do I want to do? Do I want to quit the show, start closing up the businesses, spend more time with my family, reevaluate my life? So I sit there and I reflect, and I go back to the closest people I have around me after I come up with what I want to do and ask them what do they think. And often, they give me some really tough answers and some tough questions, but you just have to get in that room and be really honest with yourself. It goes really back to being that why. Like we were talking, I don't want to have 2,000, 4,000, 10,000 people work for me. I don't want to be on CNBC talking about how much I have an ETF or
with
a
pajama
$100 billion fund.
With pajama pants, right?
Yeah,
Kevin.
exactly.
Kevin with the pajama pants.
I know, Kevin, yes, with pajama pants. Yes,
Yeah,
I know what
yeah,
you're talking
what the
about. Yeah, exactly. He's top on in pajama pants. I know my why, but most people, the ones who don't know me, oh my God, you're the man, you can do that. And you know what? If you really aren't in focus of what you want to do, you get caught up with that.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that, so I just reset. I'm just a very honest person, and it's very hard. It's scary, it hurts.
Yeah.
You got to ask yourself tough questions.
Yeah, being vulnerable. Yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
Anybody else? Thank you. Yeah. Come up too, Nathan, so you'll be next.
So it's an honor to meet you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Actually, I have two questions. Number one is a little follow-up. What was his name? Colin. How do you, as entrepreneurs, you mentioned earlier, right? You got to wake up every morning and hustle it out. How do you balance that? Especially like us, we have families from a young age, right? Religious aspects. So there's life, right? How do you juggle everything at once? To give everything enough time. Like a lot of times you feel like you need to give the business the all. How do you balance life?
I wrote a whole book on it. It's called Rise and Grind. But I give you the highlights of it. I schedule my life by half an hour. And I do everything that I want to do first. Now, you may say, well, I think, Daymond, you may be in a life where you can do what you want first. But I got a 5-year-old daughter. She couldn't care less about my schedule, right? Neither could my wife, right? And his buddy, Maury, we were with each other. We were in Vegas, I think. And he travels with me sometimes. He said, I got to get home. I said, you live in San Diego? Okay, no problem. I got to get home now. And I said, why? He said, I have a 12 and a 13-year-old daughter, and every quarter I take them both out separately on dates. I said, why? The 12 and 13-year-old, why would you take them on a date? And he said, because if I don't take them on a date, they'll never know how a man is supposed to treat them the first time they ever go out with a man. and it kicked me in my stomach because I have 2 older girls. Thank God they've been great. They're great human beings, 29 and 23. And I never took that time with them because you know what? I travel the world from 30 years old to 40, and I traveled the world 10 times. The whole world was an airport, a restaurant, a conference room, and a hotel, right? And now I start scheduling my life. And of course, unfortunately, if I have to get up an hour earlier or 3 hours, stay awake 3 hours later to do it, but I schedule every single thing. And the first thing is, of course, in the morning is to pray and to eat properly and to meditate, and then to do whatever I need to do, and then start making calls, whatever. But I schedule it, and you know what? I readjust it. You know, when we went through this whole COVID thing, I was home like all of us, and people started saying, hey, I need you on the road here. I was like, oh, no problem. That's 6 months down the road, 6 months down the road. When 6 months came, I was on the road for 3 months. I said, what did I do to myself? Because I casually put everything in. I had to stop everything again and reassess it. I just have to, it's almost like your inventory. Every one of us looks at our P&L sheet every day or every month or every week, and we reassess it, and I have to keep reassessing. So there's no one answer to it. It is a moving ball.
Thanks. And my second question would be, we are at the Aggregator Show, and I don't know if Joel has the question. It's a popular question in the space, but with a lot of sales recently. So Shark Tank is a platform. I know sometimes the sharks buy out the entire company, but like you're the people's person, right? And you invest in people, so you want them to retain a big chunk of the. So when is it time to potentially look for a good partnership or an investment, or just sell the entire company?
Again, that's another personal question, right? Do you want to scale the business? Or do you want to step away from the business because it's time to be bought out? A year, 5 years, 10 years. You want to spend more time with your family. You want to take that money and make the money work for you while you're sleeping instead. Or do I want to stay in the business because you feel the business has the potential to be a $100 million, $200 million business, and you're going to learn more with the strategic partners. You're going to have more access to capital. You're going to have more access to customers. These are all personal, really personal things that you have to decide on. But you have to take that inventory and understand. You know, it's kind of like today where we're at with homes and everything else. When you're getting offered 30% more for your home, but now when you go and buy another home, you can't find a home. Well, I might as well stay in the damn home I'm at, right? So these are all personal things, but it's about, you know, really making these decisions.
Thank you very much. Nathan, I think we have time for one last question. Okay.
Okay. So I'm a big Shark Tank fan, and you get questions about business all the time, but I'm more curious on the personal side of things for you. So first I want to understand, you know, what did you learn throughout your cancer battle?
Yeah.
And then also, what makes you happiest?
Good question. Thank you. So I went in to get an executive physical. I'm not sure if everybody knows what executive physical is. Normally I get a regular physical, but a very wealthy man said to me, with all the money you have, why don't you get an executive physical? And I said, I don't know what executive physical is. He said, call UCLA. I think Mayo Clinic and them all have it. I think if you're actually a senior, you can get them for free. But for 2 days, they put me through all type of machines, 17 machines I went through, and they checked everything. So they were checking my carotid veins. They said, listen, carotid veins are clear, but you have a little nodule on your thyroid. Go get it checked out. I go to the doctor. They do a biopsy. He said, 90% chance I'm going to be able to tell what it is. There's 10%. I can't tell what it is. Of course, what happened? The 10% chance. Doctor says to me, at that time, you're 49 years old. I wouldn't say this if you were in your 80s or 90s, but right now, I think you should take out your thyroid. There's 50% chance you're taking out something totally great, 50% chance you're taking out something dangerous. I go in, 1 hour surgery becomes 4.5 hours. He wakes me up and he says, I took out a mass about this size in your throat. He said, but it's going to take us 2 weeks to tell what it is. You know the doctors never tell you when you ask them? I'm like, don't you do this surgery 300 times a year? He says, it's going to take us 2 weeks. I go home, and I know that it's cancer. And I say to myself, I lived the happiest life ever. Let me start closing up the businesses, because if I'm only going to be around 2 years or 10 years, I want to enjoy my family. I'd rather leave now. My mother's still alive. I don't want to see her die. My 2 oldest girls, they're great girls. They're already going to be married, so I'm cool with them. My 5-year-old little girl, my 2-year-old little girl, she'll never know who I was. And my wife is smoking hot. She's going to be married in 2 months after I'm gone. So it's all good. A week goes in, and I say to myself, wait a minute. I have lived 10 lives. I am inspiring people. Number 2 is I'm being a selfish person because no mother should ever bury their child. I do have 2 oldest girls, and I want to see my granddaughters, and I want to see this little girl grow up, and I do get to go home every night to a smoking hot woman. A week later, the doctor called me. I forgot why he was calling me. My mentality had changed so much that whatever it was, I was going to beat it. And then he called me and said, you had a golf ball size of stage 2 cancer in your body. I think we got it all, but it may have moved to your lymph nodes, so we're going to have to check it out. No problem. But it was that mentality. All of us, I remember the anesthesiologist saying this to me. He said, every single person that's gotten to this table has beaten whatever they had before or lost the battle before they've gotten to this table. Anyway, so that's my thing to everybody here, to get a colonoscopy, endoscopy, pap smear, mammogram, because we're so hard-headed about this type of stuff, because it's 65% if you catch something in time, you can beat it. So that's what makes me happy, like being around my family, inspiring people, fishing, snowboarding, archery, but more importantly, I've had an honor of being on a television show where I see families like Shark Tank. The data is that it's the top show on network, not marketed to kids. That's the #1 show watched parents and kids together, and kids 5 to 15 years old. So I think that the next Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, the next Elon Musk is in their little pajamas, eating cereal, debating with their family who's watching Shark Tank. So I think that makes me happy. And being here with fellow sharks makes me happy. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can stay. I got nowhere to go, but we're past 8. Up to you.
We can have
one
two
more
more
question.
questions. Come on, give me 2 more
Oh,
questions.
good.
I'm good.
Wow,
I'm having a good
thank
time,
you,
man.
Thank you. Wow.
Wait,
Wait,
right here. Right? No, right here. He wanted a question.
Everyone's pointing at each other. What's going on? Oh, Mike. Okay.
Oh, you want a question, man? Come on, let's talk to your partner.
Good.
Hey, Daymond, I just want to thank you for the transparency and a lot of the honesty that's coming out tonight. It's really nice to see that. I guess I just wanted to say 2 things. Number 1, you mentioned different parts of your life, the philanthropist starting out from a humble beginning, and the medical challenges and maybe different things you saw in your family. I'm curious, was there a certain shift in your life that you noticed, I want to start refocusing? Do you think it started when you began, somewhere in the middle? Can you talk a little bit about that? And I guess I'm also curious, what do you think your greatest lessons have been in life as a philanthropist?
You tough question. Oh, so the first one's fairly easy. The biggest shift that happened in my life I was fortunate enough growing up in Hollis, Queens. There's so many musical artists from Hollis, Queens. LL Cool J, Run DMC, Salt and Pepper, and all these people. And I was on the first national tour. So I would just push speakers around and all that stuff. Troy, New York, Spectrum Theater, Philadelphia. And I was the coolest kid in school because I was on tour with LL Cool J. So when all those other kids started to go to college, I laughed at them, and I was dyslexic already. The last thing I wanted to do was go to college. I said, I'm going to take a year off. And I remember that, of course, unfortunately, growing up in Hollis, Queens, too, there was a lot of drugs and a lot of things like that. I turned around. I was 22, 23 years old. Most of my friends were dead or in jail. I was working at Red Lobster, and those kids I laughed at were coming back from college, and I was serving them shrimp at Red Lobster. And I had to take a hard look at myself, and I said, maybe I'm not the smart, cool one that I thought I was. And after that, I started to search out mentors, and I started to read every book I could. I couldn't afford college at the time, because now I needed to pay to live. And I immersed myself in educating myself and putting myself around mentors. And my life changed, and it didn't change overnight. It took 6, 7 years, but I invested that time. The next question you asked me was what?
What do you feel your greatest lesson in life has been as a philanthropist?
As a philanthropist, is that there are way more heroes in this world than we think. That there are so many people that are our teachers and our veterans and people who are on the front lines that will never get the acknowledgement. They don't have any money, and they don't need any money. They don't need to be people giving away millions and billions, and they dedicate their time and their heart every single day, and they make me feel bad. and make me feel like I could do more. And those are the people that they're unsung heroes in our communities, you know.
Thank you.
One more quick question, was it? You said two. He did two. All right, final question. Thank you.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Thank you. All right, so as entrepreneurs and whatnot, it's very hard to focus. So what do you, in your suggestion, is it better to focus on one business, having different ideas and whatnot, one business, giving it all you got and then growing on to more, or just focusing on that and then making that big, or opening up, let's say, you have 3 different ideas and then, give your attention to the 3 and then grow it,
You already know that answer.
I know you said, okay, fine, for one, but is it better to focus on one and then grow it, or is it would you say to open up a second kind of?
You have to max that one out, and you have to extract as much value. Now, it depends on what you're talking about growing it, because we're talking in a room full of people that they may have a good product, but they need to have accompanying products to that, or accompanying streams of revenue to that, right? There's so many streams of revenue from one brand or product. That's why I told you, I made the best I could, and I understood marketing and I understood manufacturing from kids, inner city, 18 to 35, that love hip hop, that would pay 20% more for better goods. Men, that's it. But to expand that business, I had to partner up with people who understood internationally, or ladies, or boots, or bags, to exploit and extract the most value I could out of that business. I didn't look for other businesses then. If I would have, it would have been a business that complemented my business. If I was going to acquire retail stores, because I was acquiring the land to sell the product through, so the land grew and I could take the depreciation on the land, it's a whole different story. But I was still, the core of the business was the men's apparel.
Makes sense. So let's say you have 3 ideas. Which is the one that you choose? And
You what?
Let's say you have 3 ideas, right? How do you know which one's the best to choose? And then what's the best mindset to stay towards that one and be like, oh, maybe I could have done this, it would have been better?
I don't know how good or how bad your ideas are. That's the problem. Everybody in this room came up with 3 ideas this last hour.
No, true. So I'm saying, so what's the best way to kind of focus and make that the next big thing?
Is it something that you would buy?
Yeah.
Is it something you would do for free?
No.
Whatever you buy, you can sell.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever you do for free, you can make money doing. Is it something you're obsessed over? Something you can't sleep at night, and you can 2 months later you go, I still want to do it. I still want to do it. I still want to do it. Well, then that's the one. If all 3 of those are, then you got a bigger problem.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Just do a big crowd selfie from here.
Why don't we?
So don't get bothered.
Well, you gotta kill those lights, because then it's gonna blare out your camera.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
You want to kill the lights?
Can we kill those lights? The spot.
Okay. There you go. Why don't we get down here? Put your camera on 0.5.
It goes that way.
Yeah, you got a 0.5 on your camera? Can you? No?
First time on video.
No, it's video. You got to put on 0.5. Yeah, it's not showing 0.5. You know what? He should do it, because if you flip it around and you do it like this, this will catch everybody. Right? He can do it, let him do it on that one. So he has a 0.5 one there. Yeah, you can do a picture. Yeah, just do a picture first, and then you'll take the video. Take the picture. Okay.
All right, everybody get in. Let's do a quick video.
What's the video? You got the video?
Do a quick video here.
Video? Sure.
Yeah.
You got the video? You good? All right.
All right, big video. Everyone get in, scream. Woo!
Thank you.